Blessings of Yah to the returning viewers and to the new viewers. This video today is explaining to those that do Holy Communion, Yahushua'S blood, it must be taken first. I will show you in the Word of Yah, and I will explain why. On we go. Now, before I go into scripture about this, I want to say, I get it. I do understand why certain people would say taking Yahushua'S body is first and then take his blood. I really do get it. Everyone here at Holy of Holies Lord Keepers Ministry also believe in following and obeying everything Yahushua say and do, and also doing things in the same order as he may do things. But this here, his Holy Communion, there is a very, very important reason why we cannot do Holy Communion in the same order Yahushua did. There are people that believe when doing Holy Communion, the bread that represents Yahushua'S body is to be taken first, and then take the grape juice or wine second. People believe that doing Holy Communion in this order is the proper way because in Scripture, Matthew 26 chapter, verses 26, 27, and 28, Yahushua done it in that order. And also in Scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 24 and 25, Yahushua has done the same order. For those that do not know, Holy Communion is always an offering to the Father in heaven. And what does offering mean? Offering means a thing offered especially as a gift or contribution. At the bottom of that, it says, in parentheses, animals as sacrificial offerings. So, I said that to say this. Yahushua was and is our holy offering to the Father in heaven, Father Yah. He was and is our sacrificial lamb. This is one of the reasons why Yahushua said in Scripture, John chapter 14, verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Moving forward. In Scripture, Genesis chapter 4, verses 2, 3, 4, and 5, it reads, and she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel also brought of the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. In verse 2, Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a tiller of the ground, meaning Abel was a shepherd over sheep, and Cain was a farmer who kept and tend to the ground, for those that do not know. In verse 3 and 4, Cain brought an offering to Father Yah in heaven, and his offering was fruit from the ground that he grew. And Abel brought an offering also to Father Yah in heaven, and his offering was the best sheep he had in his flock. In verse 4, the scripture tells us, Father Yah in heaven had much respect to Abel for the offering he offered to him. But in verse 5, the offering Cain brought to Father Yah in heaven, it was not pleasing, nor did Father Yah have any respect with what Cain brought to him as an offering. Question: do you really know why Father Yah was more pleased with Abel's offering than Cain's offering? I'll tell you, to those that may not know. Because Abel's offering was a living sacrifice, and that living thing contained something to cover Abel's sin, and that was the sheep's blood. Cain's offering was fruit, and fruit cannot produce blood to cover or cleanse sin. Before Yahushua came, they used animals such as sheep, goats, bullocks, and rams, etc., as an offering to Father Yah. These living things were temporary blood coverings. That's why each and every time they wanted to communicate with the Father in heaven, they had to get another animal to offer up. But when Yahushua came down to this earth, his blood and body became our offering to Father Yah in heaven. And the difference between the animal's blood and Yahushua'S blood is Yahushua'S blood was and is holy, perfect, and permanent. For those who do not know, the animals was a temporary covering at that time. But now Yahushua'S blood is a permanent cleanse for us. Doesn't scripture 1 John chapter 1 verse 7 say, the blood of Yahushua cleanseth us from all sin? In scripture Exodus chapter 12 verse 3, Father Yah tells Moses to speak to all the congregation of Israel and tell them that each house gets a lamb. And verse 5 says, The lamb shall be without blemish, meaning the best lamb they could find. And verse 6 says that the whole congregation of Israel came together to kill the lamb in the evening. Then in verse 7 says, take the blood from the lamb and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses. And the 13th verse says, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. You can read the whole chapter for yourselves. So, I went to scripture, Exodus chapter 12, verses 3, 5, 6, 7, and 13 to show everyone how important to Father Yah and his son Yahushua the offering of blood is to them, and how it can protect. Now, I want to tell you why it is so important to drink Yahushua'S blood first in doing Holy Communion. Our sin must be cleansed first before we can take Yahushua'S body and do the feet washing. Questions. Isn't our flesh sinful? Won't the flesh always be sinful? Galatians chapter 5, verse 17 says, for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the thing that ye would. And what does contrary mean? Contrary means opposite in nature, direction, or meaning. And scripture Galatians 6 chapter verse 8 says, for he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. So, again, we need to take Yahushua'S blood first in Holy Communion to cleanse our sinful flesh. I would like to give a quick recap. People, we should always pray to Yahushua and get the whole truth and an answer from him before we teach others about their holy word. When it comes to Yahushua, about how he gave the bread first in doing Holy Communion, he can do that because he was not born in or through sin. He was sin-free. On the other hand, we are not sin-free. So we cannot take the bread first in doing Holy Communion. we must take his blood first to cleanse us. Remember, my friends, our flesh will always be a sinful problem until our souls are separated from it. May Yah bless you, and may Yah keep you.